Hello fellow Gunters. Before starting, two things. First is that I'm using the option to show the true attack of weapons. Without this setting, all attack values are multiplied by something by 2.3 and makes stuff harder to compare. And then quick recap of my previous video. Flayer is useless for Gunlance and you will not see me talking about the skill anymore. That's the recap. Thanks to that, it really reduces the number of sets to consider when making one for Gunlance that also may be compatible with other weapons, since in this game you may carry two weapons. So the ideal set for Gunlance should be also highly modulable to use it with just one Gunlance, with two, with a Gunlance and a hunting horn for multiplayer, a status gun for support, and so many options. There is also the thing that every player and target monster is different and you also want flexibility. It may be some extra mobility of life for tougher monsters or just more part break for rewards. For Gunlance you also must consider how affinity benefit is greatly diminished because shelling attacks from burst fire, charged and uncharged shells and wyvern fire aren't impacted by critical hits. That makes lots of skills a lot less desirable than what they should be, like maximum might or weakness exploit. You are investing the same slots for those for a portion of the DPS increase. There is still some merit in getting a bit of affinity because the end of all Gunlance guardian arkveld, that I nickname Gark, includes a negative affinity modifier, and the same for others good ones like Gravio's Gunlance for the long type diehard. I will focus on the decorations for the Gunlances later. I think I'm going around circles instead of doing the opposite, to show you the set and explain why it is currently the best. This is the No Surprises Guardian Ebony Armor but using Jin Legs. Jin Legs provides Agitator 2, that is a skill which slots are level 3, the talisman is also for Agitator, so with just these two pieces of equipment you reach Agitator 4, that is worth 16 points of attack and negates the negative affinity of the Gark Gunlance. With the big damage output of Gunlance and the relative low health of monsters, it is very easy to keep them enraged for most of the fight, being one of the easiest skills to trigger. 16 attack represent a 6.5% DPS increase from the base 240 attack of Gark. No small, no huge, but again with the main benefit of the easy activation. Going to AG 5, the benefit will be just 4 points of attack. The ratio of benefit of 260 attack over 256 is a 1.5%, and the affinity benefit is almost negligible when using the Gark Gunlance, since you will end with a 5% affinity. Only one of every 20 melee attacks will do a critical hit. Is 100% not worth sacrificing the set bonus of Odogaron for squeezing that last point? The set bonus of Odogaron is simple: more activation uptime on the skill burst and most important 10 whole points of attack. That's 2/3 of the benefit of Agitator as a freebie that would be worth 2 skill points on its worth if it were a decoration. Of course this requires you to activate burst, but activating and keeping burst active thanks to the set bonus is also an easy thing. To activate burst you only need to hit the monster once. This means that burst will be always active when you use a burst fire or a wormstake full blast. Even for wyvern fire, being multi-hit means that the first one will be unbuffed and then the rest will get at least the minimum effect. Burst has a 2-tier damage boost. The first is set as on first hit, then you get another bigger boost after the 5th one. Everything that Gunlance does counts toward the activation of the skill, from pokes to shells or even stake ticks. And when active, the first tier boosts attack by A and the second by. This makes burst the very best attack skill for Gunlance without alternative. I use the following combination of pieces for getting all burst 5. Burst decorations are level 3, and this is why the alpha version of the arms is the recommended one, because otherwise you could slot it. As a final note about why the Odogaron set bonus is so important is because of how slow wyvern fire is firing and recovery even with artillery 3. Without the set bonus, you would drop the damage every time you decide to use a double wyvern fire and will be a lot more stressful in general. Burst easiness of activation can't be understated. You do it by doing what you are doing anyway, hitting the monster. And after all this that is already top tier damage, it gets better. You get 5 spare level 2 slots to do whatever you want with them. This is to go further into more damage per second, to add utility or even comfiness. There are unlimited combinations here. And you aren't to catch me dying in the ship of saying, this is the best, you should only use this one. What I can do is to give you a small list of good skills to slot here, pros and cons, and let you pick the ones that fancy you best. For direct extra damage, Counter-Strike is one of the most underrated skills. At 3 levels provide a 25 extra attack that is more than a 10% from Gark base damage. The benefit lasts for a while, and with enough monster knowledge you can know which attacks you can take to get the benefit. Ironically, this skill is also better the worse hunter you are. Then there is the triad of conditional 5-point skills: peak performance, resentment and heroics. Heroics is the staple of speedrunning and is awesome. You can fully hit it in this set, which is something you can't do with most other alternative sets. At max level is straight up a 30% bonus damage that is insanely strong. A big reason why I consider this set optimal. Then peak performance and resentment are opposite skills. Both offer a 25 attack bonus similar to Counter-Strike but are a bit more cumbersome to keep active against some monsters or environments. I personally think they take too much space and should have been 3-level skills. For speedrunning, heroics is almost equivalent to peak performance and the output is at least 3 times greater since both are about not getting hit. Resentment can be kept always active when fighting in the volcano without a cool drink. Then there is Partbreaker. I'm still at the fence on this skill because the main benefit and secondary benefit are not as straightforward as they look like. Part breaking in this game is independent of wounding, and this will not make wounds show up before. Making use of the focus attack benefit also can be hard in some situations, like in multiplayer where hunters may compete for the wounds and monsters are harder to wound. I plan to do a full video on this one. Odagaran armor comes already with 1 point of earplugs, and maximizing it only requires 2 of your 5 available slots. With just 1 extra point you already gain immunity to weak roars that are like half the cast of the game. Monsters always roar at the start of the game, and this means you can dish an insane amount of damage in the first seconds of the hunt, more so if you pair this skill with ambush. Ambush provides an absurd amount of damage, 15% in the very first moments of the fight. This is currently used by speedrunners buffing themselves before the hunt starts, and then use these buffs combined with ambush to do massive damage and create wounds that then can use with focus attacks to chain knockdowns and make the run considerably easier. Looks like you only can sneak attack once per hunt. I tried the test of sneaking and then wearing the ghillie mantle to try to sneak attack, and it was not possible. It is still possible to use it after the monster changes areas to do the sneak attack on a later spot of the hunt. Ambush is also awesome when fighting frenzy monsters who are very small health pools. The least the hunt is likely to go, the most powerful is ambush. Heck, in the run I did just to record the skill combo, I was able to demolish Blango in 1 minute getting hit and stuff. The final 2 special mentions I want to do are Tool Specialist and Evade Extender. These 2 skills were godlike in Monster Hunter World. Evade Extender still does what it does, but its usefulness has diminished thanks to the lunge, shell and moving sweep combos that gives you awesome movement without having to sacrifice slots into this. I should do a video dedicated to movement options. You can slot EE if you want or don't like the other options. This is why I'm mentioning it. Then, Tool Specialist was godlike in Monster Hunter World because you could equip 2 mantles, and while one was recharging you could use the other. The mantles are still awesome in this game, but you only can carry 1 plus ghillie, and they all have a very long cooldown of 10 minutes, even with Tool Specialist cutting the time to 1/2. Using this set most monsters will be dead by the time 5 minutes passes. Shame. The final mention goes to Maximum Might, that is totally best on slot of Affinity since they double nerfed weakness exploit and can be considered if you go with an off-meta artisan build based on criticals with stakes and augur. And as I said at the start of the video, I must consider you may be using another weapon and that one can benefit from critical hits. That is something important to consider. Max Might will be still useful for the Gunlance too, even if it is just a little. 30% affinity means an average increase of your melee damage of 7.5%. Not bad, but at least half your damage does not crit. With this the armor is out of the way. Then there are the weapons. I have already talked about the best Gunlances in a previous video, with Gark being the current king, Basarios and Gypsaros as the best long options, and Quematrice as the dethroned queen of normal. These Gunlances all have a 3-slot decoration that is usually dedicated to artillery 3. Then, only Gark has a second level 3 decoration with the other sporting level 2. Here the recommendation before further research is load shells. For long is a big boost in your burst damage. For normal is not much, and you might be interested in going for offensive guard. A normal can run artillery 3 and offensive guard 3 and make it awesome for something based in baiting perfect guards into burst fires. For Gark, you can pair load shell with a small selection of alternatives. From a point of view of optimal damage, it should be attack boost, but 1 point will only give you 3 points of attack. That is ridiculously underpowered. You are better off with guard. Even if you already have guard 2 from Gunlance, there will still be attacks that can push you even with a perfect guard. The extra guard also helps if you guard too soon. Is not a great skill, but there is not much to pick from. The other option very worth considering is handicraft. If you also dedicate your level 1 decoration to it, you will end with some white. The white will varnish after a WSFB loop, but still will help keeping the blue a bit more time, and without doubt is much more useful than attack boost 2 for 5 attack. What the heck? Then for the last slot, the most powerful option is offensive guard. Even 1 point is 15% attack bonus, goes nice with the guard bonus since you can get the benefit of offensive guard even if you don't do a perfect one. Offensive guard doesn't last long enough for a complete wormstake full blast combo, but if you double wyvern fire after a perfect guard, you will do considerable extra damage. The other option I use is focus. With wide you can do the combo of charged shell sweep into wormstake full blast and get back 1 full stock of gauge, so you will always be able to use it on big openings. Even if you don't charge shells often, a 5% more use of your strongest attack is a very good thing. And this is everything. I'm not going to claim this set is optimal for every possible situation and matchup. There are some set bonuses that if you are facing the right circumstances are straight up broken, but I can swear this is the best good for every set. You get awesome damage on the set itself, and then you have the freedom to use your favorite skills. What else can we ask for? Thanks for watching. See you in the hunt.